Arabian Grand Prix over. I got some huge takeaways from every single team and what I thought of the race. First of all, the race was, I think, underwhelming in comparison to the usual Jeddahs that we get, or Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. 2021 was a banger, so many safety cars and so many different types of overtakes. It was a very interesting race with so many red flags. A lot of action in the Jeddah Grand Prix in 2021. In 2022, we got DRS check-in with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Yet again, a very entertaining race. Now, the 2023 race, if I had to rate it, which I will, I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. While it was pretty fun on the lower end, the top end was pretty boring, and it kind of looked pretty easy for Max Verstappen to pass from 15th to 2nd. I mean, he got into 2nd on the 24th lap. It's pretty fast. I mean, that's not even half the race yet. The safety car kind of did help him. I don't think a safety car was required in that moment. I should at least say that. Before I start with the actual takeaways that I got with the Grand Prix, thank you all so much for subscribing. We are at 1,500. That is amazing, and I love you guys, and thank you very much for the crazy support. And for you guys that aren't subscribed, I upload almost every single day. Please subscribe when you can, like the video when you can, and hit that notification bell. Let's get started in these takeaways. So I'm going to make my way down the list. I'm going to start with the team that I thought was the most underwhelming in this race, and that is definitely McLaren. So McLaren in Jeddah was a tank, honestly. That thing was the draggiest thing I have ever seen. And I'm even shocked that they weren't just dead last 20 seconds behind. So we saw in qualifying, they were the worst on top speed by almost 29 kilometers, or something like ridiculous that I saw. The pace was just so awful in that McLaren. That car is gonna need a lot of work. I just feel so bad for Lando. Yeah, that car is slow. I really don't have any good takeaways for them. I would just give them a very bad rating. I'll rate every single team. For McLaren, how they did it in the Jeddah Grand Prix, I'd probably give them a 1 out of 10. I mean, at least they're 2 out of 10. They lasted the race. I'll give them a 2 out of 10 for McLaren in the race. The takeaway is they're the draggiest car on the grid. Next team I want to start with is Williams, who completely disappointed me actually in this race. First of all, Alex Albon, reliability problems. Logan had a chance to overtake those Haas cars multiple times, and then on the radio we heard that that was a strategy to like just keep up behind. His tires were probably getting shredded. It did not help that like he was just behind the Haas. But I mean, the Williams car actually had pace. Albon was on a maybe to get a point. He probably would have given Hülkenberg and Magnussen a pretty good fight. So all in all, they were okay, but they disappointed me. I thought they were going to be good enough to actually compete with the likes of even close to the Alpines with their straight line speed, but not a good race for Williams. If I had to rate the race, I would also give them a 2 out of 10. I mean, Logan Sargent did finish behind one of the McLarens, so tells you something. As for the next team, I'm going to go for Alfa Romeo, who I expected to not be good on this track. Actually, Guan Yu Zhou had a decent race. Bottas was nowhere to be found. Yet again, like I talked about before, the car is draggy. It's not great in high-speed corners either. They can step on the throttle for a very long period of time, but it doesn't really mean much. They don't have that much straight line speed, so it makes it harder for them to actually overtake on this track. And their strategy calls were not the greatest. So as for Alfa Romeo, I think that they had a little bit of a better race than actually Williams and McLaren, so I'm going to give them a 3 out of 10. Now moving on to Alfa Tauri, who actually shocked me. I actually thought they were going to have a way worse race than they did. Nick was all right. I mean, he kept up. Yuki's being the leader. I'm happy to hear this. Yuki is actually performing well. He was very disappointed to lose that point. I was disappointed. I wanted Yuki to grab that point. I mean, I'm happy for the Haas team, don't get me wrong, but Yuki was trying. He was trying his heart out over there, and he had a good race. I really got to give Yuki props. And I actually think that this AlphaTauri team, maybe they can find something. This is going to be, I thought, their worst track in comparison to Bahrain, but hey, Yuki's fine. Yuki's fine. It's pretty entertaining to watch Yuki so far. So I'm going to give this AlphaTauri team an actual 6 out of 10. I mean, there's a lot of flaws. Don't get me wrong. They're still pretty slow. But as for how their car is, a 6 out of 10 is pretty solid. It was an upgrade to what I thought they were going to have. Now on to the Haas team, who was yet again another surprise for me. I didn't think they had the top speed like that. They were very fast in the straight line. They actually gave Max Verstappen kind of a hard time while Max was behind them because they had that straight line speed. He had to wait till DRS to then catch them to barely be able to overtake them. He did overtake them in 2 laps, but they did make him struggle a little bit within the first, 3 laps before DRS. Hulk, pretty decent race. He wasn't as good as K-Mag. K-Mag in the races, his race pace is great. Qualifying, Hulk is kind of wiping the floor with him, I can't lie. But as for this Haas team, good pace. The tires were not getting shredded, so I got to give the Haas team some props. I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. They had a better race than AlphaTauri, and pretty good for that Haas team. I'm excited to see if they can actually now bring better upgrades, upgrade the car a lot more, improve upon their real tire drag and their low speed cornering, which used to be a great thing for them before, but they were struggling a little bit into turn 1. It was sectors 2 and 3 where they were really good. Now moving on to the last 5 teams, and I'll start off with Alpine. Alpine, for me, had a very okay race. I saw them post on Twitter like they were excited to be 9th and 8th. I'm sorry, but like to me, this team is like pretty disappointing. Like they were 10 seconds behind that Ferrari, and that Ferrari was terrible in this race. I just expect so much more from this team. They make their own engines. They do everything by themselves, and they're so content with just being really losers. They're not first, second, or third. They're always 4th or 5th. It annoys me that this Alpine team is okay with that. So as for Alpine, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10. Just a neutral race. They kept up. They got 8th and 9th. I guess that's good points for the team, but they're clearly like 5th. And I said that even in the pre-race for the Jeddah GP. They're just meh. I mean, like they're very much in the middle. It annoys me that they're just so content with this, but I guess I got to give them their props. P8 and P9. As for Ferrari, my disappointment is immeasurable. This team, I feel bad for Leclerc. Like he constantly has to deal with, like his engineers should have told him he should have been ahead of Hamilton. That probably would have allowed him to actually go up further up the field and maybe fight with Russell. Could he have gotten to Alonso? I don't think so. I don't think their car was that great on race pace, but just disappointing, man. They made a right strategy call. I mean, like I can't fault them for what happened with the safety car, but that pace in that car, the disappointment, they were second in qualifying with Leclerc. Leclerc should have been ahead of Sainz multiple times. Didn't happen. Had to stay behind. The team even ordered it. Like, just disappointing all around for that Ferrari team. I hope that this team upgrades throughout the whole entire year and somewhat gets back into it, but right now they're in a poor state. They might even still be like not turning up that engine. I think that they're very afraid to actually go full out on that power, which is just not a good thing. Their reliability is such a problem, and that Ferrari car is just ready to like, it's a ticking time bomb, honestly. And I'm disappointed in Ferrari. I'm giving them a 3 out of 10 for this race. They didn't have a good race, not better than the Alpines, considering where the Alpines started from. So, sorry. Leclerc was not bad. Don't get me wrong. Leclerc had as good of a race as he could have in the car, but in general, the Ferrari team was just a 3 out of 10. Last 3 teams, I'm going to talk about, let's go Mercedes. For Mercedes, I think this was a good Grand Prix. I mean, 4th and 5th, almost a podium, but it's not, which is good. It shouldn't have been. 4th or 5th, they probably arguably could have been 5th and 6th if Lance Stroll was in the race, but guess what? They benefited and they did well. Lewis, for me, was the faster driver. I think that he should have actually been ahead of George, but I think his strategy call would have worked way better if it was towards the end of the Grand Prix, but I think that also Mercedes was kind of like, hey, let's keep us 4th and 5th. If George can catch him, let's see if Lewis can catch up. So I would say it's a pretty solid Grand Prix for the Mercedes team. I would give them a 7 out of 10. I actually think that they did well. It seems like the car has improved and gained some tenths. They weren't too far behind. I mean, Lewis was 30 seconds behind, and Russell was only 25 seconds behind. That's not far off that Red Bull car, because that Red Bull car is a beam, man. Okay, on to Aston Martin. As for Aston Martin, I think they had an amazing race, and this has solidified them as P2 in the Constructors. I mean, reliability is a problem, and I'm not happy that Lance Stroll was out of the race. He had the best overtake of the race on Carlos Sainz. That was a chef's kiss overtake. That was beautiful. But all in all, good race for Aston Martin. Reliability is a problem, so I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. I don't think that they were perfect in this race, but I think that they did what they needed to do, and they showed off that even in the car's weak points, which is straight line speed, they have a lot of drag. They got to work on that for sure. And Alonso kept up with Perez for like the first 11 or 12 laps. I'm telling you that Aston Martin car will come back in the year to haunt Red Bull if the penalty for the wind tunnel works. That Aston Martin car could fight for the championship. I'm making a separate video on that soon, but they can be deadly. Okay, last and really for Red Bull, the takeaway is these guys are just lasers. Their DRS, their top speed, they are just the fastest on the grid. And man, it's a 10. It's a 10. They're just perfect. Like Max Verstappen blew through the whole entire field. Their car is perfect. The team is perfect. The strategies, you got to give Red Bull their props. You got to give them their flowers, as people are saying. So yeah, Red Bull beasts. I got to give them that 10, and congrats on the team for making this laser beam of a car. It will be tough for other teams to catch up. I do have hope in a couple of teams actually making it to them and picking off some race wins. I don't think the season's over whatsoever. What are you guys' thoughts? What do you guys think, and what were the takeaways you guys got from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix? Please let me know your thoughts down below. Leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.